Hi, my name's Ella and I'm an incoming PA student. I am going to be starting this year, and while I still have the time, I wanted to make some videos about my experience applying, some tips, things I wish I knew. And in this video, I wanted to specifically talk about the stats that got me accepted into PA school. This should not be used as a comparison. Everyone gets into PA school with different stats. I know that when I was applying, I really wanted to have a general sense of what it might take to get into PA school, and I've been really fortunate that I've gotten 6 interviews and a few acceptances. And so these stats, there were things on here that I could have done better for sure, but overall it worked. It got me into PA school. And if you're a pre-PA student right now, these are just some ideas you can think about. Yeah, I'm gonna be posting a lot more videos too, and so let's get into it. I'm gonna be looking over at my computer while I kind of look directly at my CASPA application. So one of the most important things with applying to PA school is your GPA, and my cumulative undergrad GPA was 3.75, science GPA was 3.62, and I attended University of California in Davis, and my major was neurobiology, physiology, and behavior. It's all under one major. During school, I really focused on my GPA. I didn't start gaining patient care hours until after graduation, which some people want to jump straight into PA school. I knew that I wanted to take a couple gap years, and in my head, it's always easier to gain experience later on than it is to fix your GPA. And so I really recommend, if you're able to really dedicate your undergrad to getting as high of a GPA as possible. So for my patient care experience, I got most of my hours being a medical assistant at an ophthalmology office, and I graduated undergrad in June of 2024, and I started working full-time a couple weeks later. So I jumped straight into full-time work, and I got the bulk of my patient care hours from being a medical assistant. I'm still at this job. I'm ending in about a month. And at the time of my application, I've been working there close to a year because I submitted my application in May. And so at the time of my application, I put down that I had 1,325 hours. A few months after I submitted my CASPA application, I did add another experience category and put 256 hours. And I did also get 40 hours as a phlebotomy training student where I did an externship. And so I put down 40 hours for that. So total 1,365 hours for patient care experience. For healthcare experience, I also put my medical assistant role. However, I broke it down into different components, and I also did not double dip. You can't double dip your hours. So if I got 1,300 hours total working there, I couldn't then put it in both categories. You have to split it up. So I calculated that I had 450 hours doing front desk or administrative work, and 11 hours as my role as a surgery coordinator. And so these are healthcare experience, whereas my patient care experience was more direct, working patients up, taking their eye pressures, blood pressures, that sort of thing. I had no hours of research, so I put none for that. That just was something that I wasn't really interested in and just didn't come up. It's great if you do have it, but I know a lot of PA schools don't really emphasize research, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Volunteering, non-healthcare volunteering, I had 8 hours at the food bank, 18 hours at a similar kind of food bank thing, but it was more local. I had 44 hours through my sorority. I had 275 hours through an organization called Aggie House. That's a student-run housing shelter for students. So I got the bulk of my hours from Aggie House. For non-healthcare employment, I put 320 hours. I was a hostess during a summer between, I believe, my freshman and sophomore year of college. For shadowing, I shadowed a few different places. I shadowed a nurse in the NICU for 12 hours, a physical therapist for 12 hours, a physician in the emergency department for 21 hours, and a PA in the emergency department for 32 hours. The next category was leadership, and I had 90 hours as a vice president of internal affairs in my sorority, 90 hours as the academic excellence director of my sorority, and these positions I had for a year each. And I put 24 hours as secretary of a club I was a part of. And teaching experience, I have been a math tutor over Zoom since 2021, and I still do it, so 5 years now. and I accumulated at the time 1,030 hours. For extracurricular activities, for a club I was in called Bio Boosters, I was just a general member. I put 30 hours. And my freshman year of college, I was the publicity chair of a group called a Hall Council, where it was a group in my freshman dorm where we helped put on like events and stuff like that. It was during COVID, so we had limited things we could do, but I still put that in there. With extracurriculars, I have seen conflicting things about whether or not to put, hobbies like running or things like that. But I opted against it because these admissions committees are already reading so much of your application, and as great as it is to show that you do things outside of work and being a good student and all of that, it's just another thing for them to read. And I think that's something that you can show them in an interview where maybe they'll ask you, how do you de-stress, or things like that. And lastly, for awards, I've had two. I put for my major department citation award, and then I put Dean's honor list for a quarter I was on. For licenses and certifications, I put certified phlebotomy technician, and I did do this one summer. I got my CPT-1 license and I put that in there. Although I didn't actually work as a phlebotomist, it just didn't work out, but I still had that certification that I put in there. I also took the GRE and the CASPER, and the GRE scored 311 total. 156 for verbal, which was 70% quartile, 155 quantitative, 37% quartile. As long as you meet the minimums, if a school requires that, as long as you meet the minimums, I don't think it's worth retaking. Maybe if you have the extra time and money, but that test is around $200, and that's really not a large component of your application. And so I wouldn't waste your time on retaking it unless you're below kind of those minimums. And overall, my total score was in the competitive range, so I decided not to retake it. But I did freak out a little bit when I saw that 37%. For analytical writing score, I got 4.5, which is 85%. I'm also going to make another video a little bit more about the GRE, my experiences, whether I thought it was worth it, and all of that stuff. I also took the CASPER test, which is an open response situational judgment test. And most schools didn't require this, but I still took it. I think there was a couple that needed it. And I got between the 75 and 100th quartile. So that's kind of the highest range. It does it by 4 different quartiles. Some other components of my application were my letters of rec. I had 3 letters of rec. I had one from my current employer, the physician that I work for. And this was definitely my strongest letter. I've been there almost 2 years, and we worked really closely together, and he wrote me a really nice letter of rec. And so this was really a strong part of my application, I think. Another one was from my tutoring employer. I mentioned that I was a tutor in math, and this employer has known me over 5 years. And so she also wrote me a letter. My last letter was from a science professor. I honestly did not know her very well at all. I did go to every single one of her office hours though. So she was able to write a letter on my behalf in terms of my academic capabilities and my drive and that sort of thing. That is something that I could have definitely done better in undergrad, is getting to know professors better and building those connections. And when I was reaching out to her after graduating, I asked for a letter of rec, and she didn't get back to me for a little while, and I started freaking out because this was really my only option for a letter of rec from a science professor. And so she luckily got back to me and everything, and it worked out okay, but it's really not good to have all your eggs in one basket. So I recommend getting to know a few professors and having a few options in case they say no, or in case they just never get back to you. I also was a little worried because most schools required like 2 or 3 letters of rec, and I was at kind of that minimum, that 3 letters. I know you can add up to 5 letters, and so I worried that would maybe hinder my application, but it ended up being okay. I wouldn't freak out if you only have 3 letters, but 2 of them should definitely be pretty strong. On to the essays. So I did the life experiences essay. With this section, I used it to talk about my experience working as a medical assistant with distinct patient populations, kind of my experience with that, what I learned from that, and how I'm going to take that with me as a PA. You can use this section for a lot of different things. I really recommend doing it because it's another opportunity to show how you're going to be as a PA. Okay, the last main section is the personal statement. I can make another video to go really in depth, but for my personal statement, I'll break it down a little bit how I organized it. So I first started off kind of my inspiration to pursue medicine. My first sentence was a hook, though. You want to draw the reader in. And then I talked about some of my clinical experience, both in my phlebotomy training class as a medical assistant. I used kind of a story in there of me in action as a medical assistant, what I learned from that experience. I talked about why PA and my values and what being a PA looks like for me and kind of what I want to bring to the profession. And I did use an editing service. I really overthink my writing. I think I am a strong writer, but I really overthink it. And I wanted to really make sure I was on the right track. And I really, really recommend having someone, a professional, edit your personal statement if possible. I know it's expensive. Not everyone needs to though, but I recommend, if possible, to have it done. It just really helped me organize my thoughts better. And your personal statement is a large component of your application. And so that's something that I really wanted to just invest a little bit more time and money into, to make sure that I was organizing it the best I could and putting down the thoughts that I needed to put down. A lot of people have friends or family edit it too, but I personally just wanted a professional to read it. I think that's all the main components of CASPA. There's a lot of little details too, and if there's any questions you guys have, put them in the comments and I'll be sure to definitely get to them. Thank you so much for watching though, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.